We'll call this meeting to order. Councilmember DiPolito, if you're still on the council, you need to come forward and bring Councilman Orlins with you. I'd like to welcome everyone to the May 3rd meeting of the Mayor and Council of the City of Roswell. I'd like to begin by announcing...
Can you turn your mic on?
Okay. Welcome to the May 3rd meeting of the Mayor and Council of the City of Roswell. I'd like to begin with the announcements of the winner of our competition. It was a close race, but the winners of our green hair winner for these are Councilman Jerry Orlins and Chief Ed Williams. So if you would stand up so we can recognize you. I understand Ricky Spencer has green hair, and we're going to look forward to Councilman Orlins having a green beard. Now wait a minute.
There was nothing ever put in the rules about facial hair having to turn green.
We said green.
And the two people that wore it last year did not do their facial hair, right, Becky?
That's because I don't have... now you see how come you won green hair.
Well, we look forward to Councilman Orlins accepting this honor with enthusiasm and wearing Roswell's colors and the colors the money went to benefit the Keep Roswell Beautiful.
Yes.
And I want to thank everyone who supported Councilman Orlins and Chief Spencer. We're proud of them for their contribution to the city. Chief Williams, not Chief Spencer. Chief Williams for contributing the green hair. He was last year. Councilmember Wynn and Chief Spencer were our winners, and so we look forward to having new people in this office. And Councilman Orlins, you can wear that hair as long as you want once you've got it. I'm sure it'll look good on you. And now I'd like to turn to some more serious matters and begin by thanking the March of Dimes for again choosing Roswell as their location for their March of Dimes. I'd like to ask Walter Recook to come forward. Walter is a former city engineer, but he has gone on to bigger and better things, and now for the last, 15, 17 years?
Right.
How many?
19.
19 years. Walter has been very instrumental in bringing the March of Dimes back to the city of Roswell. So, Walter, thank you for coming, and we'd like to give you an opportunity to address the council.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Really, this is our 20th year. I should say that. I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about how many years I've been away. But this is our 20th year of having the event in Roswell. We're blessed again to have it out here. And I've got some folks here with me that if we didn't have these other folks participating, we'd never be able to pull it off. I'd like to recognize Jonathan Adele. He's with the Holcomb Bridge Middle School. He's the music teacher there. I've got Jeff Smith, who's also involved with our operations. And then I've got our three co-chairs for the event. I've got Mark Glickman, Susan Wagner, and Bo Wagner. And I think they'd like to say a few words.
Let's have a hand for them first.
And then we couldn't pull it off at all if we didn't have Niece Castleberry with the March of Dimes, also being our main person who did really a lot of the hard work to keep us all in line. So thank you for all that. But if I can have them come up for just a quick second and say a few words. And in the meantime, I'm going to hand out some T-shirts, if that's okay.
Thank you.
He's going to hand out T-shirts. Again, Bo Wagner. One of the things you'll notice that the Roswell logo is right here as one of our sponsors. We really appreciate y'all having us here. Again, the team, we did a really great job. Unfortunately, we couldn't do anything about the weather. I think we had about 300 to 400 people here rather than about 1,000 people, which is what we wanted. And again,
given the weather projections, that was an excellent turnout.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, we were very pleased. I think we raised $366,000, so it was a very good cause, and also we were very happy to be here. I do know from a personal, my business partner is a lifelong Midtown resident, and he's like, wow, Roswell is really beautiful, and I really enjoyed it. So I'm sorry we don't have more people that got to stay and shop instead of running home from the rain, but we really appreciate y'all hosting us. Everybody here on site was great, and the police, everything really moved smoothly, and thanks once again for having us. We'll see you next year.
Bo Wagner, thank you, and for everyone who participated. It's a great annual event. I look forward to every year. This year they added tell them what y'all added this year. That was a great addition to the march. All the things that were happening throughout the event on the walk. Walter, you probably know more. Who knows the most about this?
On the walk itself, or
maybe I better do this.
There you go. There you go. Get a niece up here. She knows what's going on.
We did add, thanks to Jonathan Adele, he was our education chair, and we added entertainment from the local schools. We had fiddlers from Chattahoochee High School. They were on the steps before the walk and after. But one of the most entertaining and exciting things that happened, I think, for the walkers, we took the fiddlers out to the checkpoints. It's a 10K walk, so we got 6.2 miles. We've got 5 checkpoints along the way. I believe it was at the second checkpoint the fiddlers were there playing, and as you know, it was raining and the instruments could not get wet, so we were very creative and we used a Ryder truck. Put the fiddlers inside the truck, so I think when people were walking out of the woods, the truck was located down by the river, and there was this bluegrass music that they were not expecting, and so that one's been mentioned a lot. We had some dancers, and there was one more event that I can't remember what it was. We had dancers and fiddlers. Una Vose from Chattahoochee High School sang the national anthem, so we got a lot of praises for our entertainment.
And we also began a process of trying to, working with the merchants to invite the folks as they're walking to stop by and see the merchants on the walk, and we hope we can expand that program next year.
Absolutely.
So it's good to see the program is strong and healthy and growing in the city of Roswell. One more hand for March of Dimes and all the good work they do.
Thank you very much.
Very much. We appreciate it.
And at this time, we have a proclamation regarding National Drinking Water Week, which will be my pleasure to read, and then we'd like to recognize some folks. Where's my proclamation? I have to locate my proclamation. National Drinking Water Week. Whereas water is a defining part of our past, present, and future, and I was in Phoenix, Arizona Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and those folks would be very jealous of all the water we have. And whereas water is a basic and essential need of every living creature, and whereas our health, comfort, and standard of living depend upon an abundant and safe drinking water, and whereas we are all stewards of the water infrastructure upon which our future generations depend, and whereas the citizens of Roswell should have a safe and dependable supply of water both now and in the future, and whereas the Roswell water system has won the Georgia Association of Water Professionals Water Plant Gold Award 4 years in a row, and whereas we are calling upon each citizen to help protect our source of water from pollution and practice water conservation and get involved in local water issues. Now, therefore, I, Jerry Wood, Mayor of the City of Roswell, do hereby proclaim May 2nd through the 8th as National Drinking Water Week, and ask that all the citizens of the City of Roswell to recognize and participate in this national event. And with that, I'd like to recognize Stu Mooring, who is the head of our Public Works Department, which includes our water system.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a Drinking Water Week is a time to draw attention to the importance of safe drinking water in our lives and the tremendous capabilities that we have in Roswell and in this country in general. If you'll indulge me, I have a short video of an alternate means of supplying water that will maybe help dramatize what we benefit from. And then we have a presentation following that.
Water Hut, best water in Olympia. How can I help you?
Hi. Can you tell me what your specials are?
You can order extra oxygen or hydrogen at no cost.
It's about 5 cents a gallon, which is a great deal. And actually, we
encourage you to buy about 4 gallons or more. Will that work?
Okay, let's get the 4 gallons of water.
Great. Can I get an address, please?
900 Plum Street.
Well, we should be able to get there in about 30 minutes, so thank you for calling.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Mom, water's here. Oh, great. Thank you. How much do I owe you?
20 cents.
Okay. There's a quarter. Take the change.
Thank you.
Thank you. Looks delicious. Water's here. Come and get it. That's the best water I ever had. Precious.
That obviously is not the way we supply water, and even as cheap as it was, 20 cents for 4 gallons, our water is delivered faster. You don't have to make a call, you don't have to wait 30 minutes, just turn on your tap. It is cheaper. It's about 10 or 12 times cheaper than the price that they quoted, and it is much safer to drink and tested on a regular basis. So hopefully everybody will have a better appreciation of drinking water. And as the mayor mentioned, the city has been the recipient of the Gold Award, and we have here tonight the executive director of the Georgia Association of Water Professionals, Mr. Jack Dozier, a former official of Georgia EPD, who is here to make a presentation to us. It's a little bit advance of the normal time, but because it's Drinking Water Week here in Roswell, we wanted to go ahead and proceed with that. So, Jack, if you'll join me.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, and citizens of Roswell. You know, this is great. He remembered my name this year. As I stand here before you tonight, 1.1 billion people in this world are without access to safe drinking water. Women and children in developing countries around the world spend their entire day carrying water from a water source maybe 5 to 10 miles away to their homes for sanitation, for drinking, and for agriculture. As a result of that, the women and children are never able to get an education, and they can never break that poverty cycle. Right now, about 50% of the hospital beds in the world are occupied by people with waterborne diseases. As I speak to you tonight, and let's assume that I take 5 minutes, I probably won't take that much time, 20 children around the world will die of waterborne diseases in the time that I stand here before you. Thankfully, in this country, we've got access to safe drinking water. The reason Councilman Wynn asked earlier, why do we have a drinking water week? Don't we drink water all the time? Yeah, we do, but we take it for granted all the time. And the reason we can take it for granted is because of the water professionals that run your water system. None of those 1.1 billion people that don't have access to safe drinking water live in the city of Roswell. None of them live in Georgia. When's the last time you heard of anybody suffering from a waterborne disease in this country? It simply is something that we've eradicated in this country, and we continue to work to make sure that we protect our safe drinking water, and that every time you go to the tap, you can have access to safe drinking water. You don't have to worry about what happens to those pizza boxes and whatever other use happened to that water after it's taken care of. So my message to you today is hug a water professional. The water professionals, I believe that the water professionals are as much responsible for the quality of life that we enjoy in this country as anybody else, because we can do everything else we do knowing that we can turn on that tap and there's always going to be a safe supply of fresh drinking water. We know that we can flush the toilet, we can run our showers, we can run our drains and not have to worry about where it goes. It's going to be taken care of. And so it's a special pleasure to me to help you recognize National Drinking Water Week, and especially it's a pleasure to me to be able to recognize excellence. Mayor Wood said this was the 4th consecutive year that you've won the Gold Award. That award is something that you expect to win. It's an award not for competition against other facilities, but for competition against an extremely tight permit that requires you to provide an exceptional level of treatment. There are literally thousands of opportunities for violations to that permit during the course of the year, and for 4 consecutive years, the City of Roswell's facility has not had a single violation. Next year, I plan to be standing here during National Drinking Water Week and award you not the Gold Award, but the Platinum Award for 5 consecutive years of outstanding service. And with that, I'd like to call Alice Champagne up and Stuart. And I don't have the award with me because it's already in Mike Leonard's hands, I think, and he didn't want to turn loose of it tonight. But you all have put together an outstanding staff of people to run your system, and you know that you can rely on them to do that. And I commend all of you. This excellence has to come from the bottom up, but it also has to come from the top down. These folks can't do their job without the support of mayor and council, and you've consistently given them that support. So with that, I commend you, and I'm going to pretend I'm going to award you present you the Gold Award tonight.
Thank you, Jack.
Jack, thank you for
Excuse me, can you turn your mic on?
65 days, then that award is not, and you lose the opportunity. We've had 4 perfect years. Stu, 1 more perfect year.
Yes, sir.
We need 1 more perfect year to win that Platinum Award, and I challenge you and staff to meet that. So we'll see Jack again, and we're getting to know Jack well here. Jack, thank you for coming tonight.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you, sir.
1 more hand for Jack Dozier and our water department. My city attorney reminded me that in the enthusiasm of wrecking all the good things we did, I forgot a very important beginning of our council meeting. So I'd like to invite the Boy Scouts to come forward, along with Sam Olens, who introduced this. And if I see a Boy Scout in the back, can you come forward and lead us in the pledge? We do this to all Boy Scouts. We're not picking on you. Is any other Boy Scouts back there? Sam, if you'll join him. Sam is the one who introduced the city with beginning every meeting with a pledge, and I apologize tonight for skipping by that momentarily. We'd all stand and face the flag. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And if the Boy Scouts would come forward and introduce themselves and tell us which troop they're with. Microphone's right here in front of you, gentlemen.
Okay. I'm Kyle DePrima, and I'm from Troop 87.
I'm Jared Charbonneau, and I'm from Troop 841.
841. Gentlemen, it's good to have you here tonight. I was a member of Troop 87 for when I was your age, and with my parents' help, I achieved the rank of Eagle, and I encourage you to, both of you boys, to strive to meet that rank. That is probably, of all of my accomplishments, that's the one which I'm the most proud. So I hope you'll keep working for that achievement. Let's have a hand for these Boy Scouts. At this time, I'll call upon Sam Evans for an announcement.
Mr. Mayor, gentlemen and ladies of the government of Roswell, Madam Ossenbeck, Mistress Ossenbeck, Colonel Ossenbeck, citizens of Roswell, this gives me great pleasure to stand before y'all tonight in my Sunday go-to meetings and my smile on my face. We have one of our own has been brought into the National Engineering Honor Society, Colonel Steve Ossenbeck, a graduate of the Citadel in 1980. It's called Tau Beta Pi, and it's a National Engineering Honor Society. Now, when you hear society, sometimes you get the wrong meaning of it. American Society of Civil Engineers. For $50, anybody in this room can become an associate member of the American Society of Civil Engineers. Tau Beta Pi is different. On the diploma of Tau Beta Pi, it says that being distinguished by high attainments in engineering and scientific knowledge, you are hereby made an engineer of eminence. Now, Roswell is in a unique situation. Roswell has the dynamic duo in the engineering profession. Colonel Ossenbeck now, Tau Beta Pi, and the real giant of engineering in Roswell is Steve Mooring, head of Public Works Department. In my 51 years of being registered as an engineer, I've sent recommendations to two people to go into Tau Beta Pi. Colonel Ossenbeck was one of them. The other one was my son, who is a graduate of the Citadel, along with me. It's a real honor, ladies and gentlemen, for what this man has accomplished. And I consider it an absolute honor to have been part of his elevation to Tau Beta Pi. And when you see him tomorrow, he'll have a halo. He'll be the boy with the halo around his hair. But now, I just think you've done wonders, Colonel Ossenbeck. And this city and the citizens of this city are lucky to have a man of this stature representing us in transportation. However, that's the molasses, Colonel Ossenbeck. I'm still opposed to those traffic circles that you encourage. And ladies and gentlemen, I thank you, and he deserves all the rights and privileges, and maybe if your pens are sharp, give him a raise. Thank you very much.
Steve, show the plaque. I think you have your plaque that you received.
Sam Evans is a great American, and he's a great citizen of Roswell, and I don't deserve any of those remarks that he just made, but I will pay him under the table later on for his kind remarks. He was kind enough. I must tell you, though, that he deserves a lot of credit. The city owes him a debt of gratitude. He has been the eyes and the ears of this city out in the field. And I can tell you that the staff, Stu, many of us have wrestled with Sam over the years. But one thing you have got to agree on is Sam is always right about the issues that he brings up. I mean, he is a very high standard, and he does this city a great service in his capacity as an engineer, as a businessman, as a resident who's raised his family here. I'm deeply honored just that he took the time to just nominate for me for this award, and it was very nice. We went to Charleston, South Carolina last week for an award with the family, and met the dean of the engineering school, who was very nice, had a reception afterwards. And this is indeed a great honor, and Sam, I owe you the world for nominating me for this. Thank you very much.
Tonight we have with us many of the people who put on the Day of Hope for the city of Roswell, and I'd like them to invite them to come forward to the podium and report on how that went. So, folks, if you'd come forward, we want to recognize you. And let's give these people a hand as they're coming forward.
We just want to, Mayor and Council, just say thank you guys so much just for how supportive you were of the coalition leadership team that helped put on this event at City Hall. We had about 6 churches represented on that leadership team, along with Rich, who helped us out as well on the leadership team. So 3 of the 6 churches are actually represented here, right behind me. Miguel Montenegro with El Shaddai Christian Church, Kim Owens with World Harvest, of course Brenda, and then Tom Schuler with Fellowship Bible Church. So we just really appreciate everything you guys did in terms of just media, in terms of the proclamation that you made, in terms of allowing us to use your facility and so forth. The Community Development Office, coordinating all the different departments, was absolutely incredible to work with. So we just want to say thank you guys so much, just for all the great help that you were to us. We do have a couple of things for you. This is a T-shirt night for you guys. We have some T-shirts as well.
I don't have enough T-shirts.
You don't?
I could use
well,
enough
good. Okay. In addition to the T-shirts, we also want to present you guys with this plaque. It says, presented to the Roswell City Council in recognition and appreciation for supporting and sponsoring our effort to bring hope to the community on April the 17th, 2010. So,
thank you so much. I want to, on behalf of the city, I want to thank you for making this happen again. It was another great event. I hope you will consider doing it next year. I'm certain you have mine and the rest of the council's full support. I know many of the council members volunteered and helped in this activity.
Yeah.
And on a personal note, I want to thank you for helping us with the census. 10 years ago, our response rate on the census was 72%. This year, with your help and with the help of staff and a lot of other citizens, we're able to get that response rate up to 76%, which is huge. It's going to make a lot of difference in the money we receive. Councilmember Price said her husband appreciated it. It will help in his districting. It will help us all politically and in funding. And on a personal note, I was able to beat Sandy Springs, which means Mayor Galambos owes me a dinner. So thank you for helping us get those numbers up from 72% to 76%. I know we signed up a lot of people at the Day of Hope. So thank you for that. You've got something to say? Oh, let's have a photo op with all the council and the Day of Hope folks. We're coming down. Great celebration on the lawn immediately behind this building. Of all the events, it is my wife's favorite event, one that she never misses and one that I haven't missed yet. And that is all made possible by a group of gentlemen I'd like to recognize at this time. So if we could have the folks who are helping with Memorial Day celebration come forward. And Jeff Pruitt will be introducing them.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Mayor and Council. It's my honor to introduce the chairperson, Mr. Dave McCleary, and the other great Americans of the Memorial Day Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. Glad to be here. I just want to recognize again Elwin Gassner, who's our president of Roswell Rotary, who's here, and the rest of our committee, Dave Young, co-chair. appreciate them being here. As you know, this is a joint event with the city and the Roswell Rotary Club. It's been a terrific event. It's the 13th annual, and it's just a great partnership. I'd like to thank the City Council and the Mayor for letting us have this event and all your working with us. And I want to thank the Parks and Recs department because I think they're the best in the country. I mean, it's amazing what they do. Joe Glover and Mr. Pruitt over there and Bobby right here. I appreciate all you all do and the team effort that we have every year. This year we're having the same similar type program. I think Elwin has some DVDs you want to pass out. These are DVDs of last year's program. We're going to show that in just a minute. Be patient. This is the full DVD. This year we are honored to have Colonel Michael Steele as our keynote speaker. He was the commander of the Black Hawk Down rescue mission, the Ranger. He was also Herschel Walker's lineman in 80, 81, 82. So he's got quite a story. He's a terrific speaker, so we're excited to have him this year. We have the Atlanta Winds and Symphony again this year, and it's going to be a terrific program. I hope all of you all can make it because I know that for our family, we always take our vacation the week after Memorial Day because I think I've gone to all but one of them, and it's just a terrific ceremony. I know I was telling Michael Steele about From the Heart portion that we do in the program. He got emotional right there just thinking about it. So every year that's always a emotional part of the program. But I appreciate your support, and I know that the unique thing about our committee is that even though the Roswell Rotary and the city are sponsoring it, the committee itself is independent and self-funded. So we pay for the maintaining the memorial and all the expenses the day of. And I just want to thank a couple of sponsors too: Carl Black, Bank of North Georgia, Northland Hospital, and Masonic Lodge came up this year and sponsored. So every year people come back to the plate because without these military people, we couldn't do what we are here tonight, and our freedoms, we owe it to them. So I appreciate it.
President David McCleary and President Elwin and all of the members of this committee and all of the sponsors, I want to thank you for bringing it back to Roswell once again. It has become a Roswell tradition. It's very much a part of this community now, and thank you for making that a tradition and making it possible and making it a great day, and for the gentleman that you honor. And with that, are we ready for a DVD? Roll it.
Well, the Rotary and the City of Roswell have a great partnership, and they have ever since this program began, and it's just amazing to watch.
The things that it takes going into putting on that kind of a ceremony includes manpower, supplies, water, food, beverage.
Well, it's the Rotarians, and it's the employees of the city and the Parks and Rec Department. These people here at City Hall, the mayor, Jerry Wood,
in the past had to rent chairs. We now own chairs. Rent the tents, very large tents, a lot of tents.
Malone, Dotson, and Dave McCleary, and all the Rotarians.
We have vendors that set up displays of equipment, uniforms. We have Jeeps and other vehicles set up.
An excellent sound system. A lot of manpower. Hometown sponsors come through for us every year.
This project has grown every year. It's up to about 7,000 people. We're the largest event in the Southeast.
It's a celebration to celebrate those men and women that protect and defend this country is the very least we can do as a citizen.
It means a tremendous amount because I feel like the military has given so much for us and given us the freedom, allow us to do the things that we can do in this nation. We owe it to them to honor them, the ones that have given the ultimate sacrifice as well as the ones that are serving now.
Lord, on this Memorial Day, we give thanks and praise for those who have served their country, for the sacrifices of those who lost their lives, for the loved ones and their families who've been touched, for the wounded who still love the country but carry the scars, give them peace of mind that their battles for freedom paid off, and give them the assurance that they have made a difference.
We stayed in that one prison about 3 or 4 years, and a Vietnamese took a room, and he was sweeping the walks outside of my cell. He swept the trash under the door, and I swept that back out. I swept it under the door again. I swept it back out, and then when the third time came, I grabbed his broom, and he yanked and tugged his broom, and I let go of his broom, and the next thing he did was slap the floor and put his hand under the door. And I clasped that handshake and realized that it had been 3.5 years that I'd touched anybody. And from then on, it was still another 2.5 years before I was involved with being in a prison with another prisoner. But I wanted to go on now and say that man's most precious possession, second only to life, is freedom. You can exist, but you cannot truly live unless you're free. More than 200 years ago, no price was too high to pay for freedom. No price is too high to pay today. As a nation that has paid so much, we know that the price of freedom is eternal vigilance. I salute all of you for your great service and sacrifice.
Memorial Day is about the people. This is their holiday, and they should honor those people who are willing to make the sacrifices and who have made the sacrifice.
After Memorial Day, we have a barbecue. We have Banks and Chain playing music, and it's a great afternoon for the family.
It's just a really well put together show here for kids and adults. And there's a lot of things to look at and see and touch and feel, and you just come away with a good sense of being an American.
It really gives you a sense of pride to hear some stories from veterans, to give you an idea of what's been done to allow us to have a Memorial Day. With that in mind, it's good to be out here.
It's extremely well done and well put on, and a lot of thought has gone into it. You just see excellence here.
People come to the event and see what we do. They say, I've got to come back every year after that.
As a serviceman, it really makes me feel good that I can come to a place like Roswell and see the mayor, the city council, the members of the local community really come behind us and support us. I get a lot of thank yous for serving our nation, but it's a privilege to serve a grateful nation and grateful people.
Great job. That video is just a sampling of the inspirational day that Memorial Day is. You got a little sense of the effort it takes to put it on and the the people that attend, but it really is just a teaser. It's just a little trailer for what you really will see, and it's free, and it's a great day. So if you haven't been to Memorial Day celebration, you have really missed one of Roswell's great events and one of the state's great events. So I encourage everyone to come to Memorial Day. It's inspirational. You will, as one of the gentlemen said in the video, you will walk away feeling proud to be an American and feeling good about your city. So I want to thank the Roswell Rotary, our Recreation Department, and all of the council who support this, and encourage everyone to come. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming. And next on my agenda is a proclamation regarding Bike Month. But I wanted to first report to the council that the bicycle race weekend before last went great. I know some of you were able to make it. The weather was absolutely beautiful. I believe we had more spectators than any other race before. I know we had more participants. The Roswell Velo did well. The participants did well. And the merchants. I understood that the merchants all had a good experience with that day. So it was a success all around. And I haven't heard one complaint. I've only heard compliments. So I want to thank council for the continued support of that race. It was a little dicey that Friday when we weren't sure what the weather was going to be, but the weather turned out to be stunning, and thank the council for supporting that. And with that, I'd like to read our Bike Month proclamation. Whereas for more than a century, the bicycle has been an important part of the lives of most Americans, and whereas today millions of Americans engage in bicycling as an environmentally sound form of transportation, an excellent form of fitness, and it provides quality family recreation. And whereas the education of cyclists and motorists as to the proper and safe operation of bicycles is important to ensure the safety and comfort of all users. And whereas the League of American Bicyclists and independent cyclists throughout our state are promoting greater public awareness of bicycle operation and safety education in an effort to reduce accidents, injuries, and fatalities. And whereas the city of Roswell has been named a bronze-level bicycle-friendly community by the League of American Bicyclists, now therefore I, Jerry Wood, Mayor of the city of Roswell, do hereby proclaim the week of May 2010, May 17th through 21st as Bike Week, and May 21st is National Bike to Work Day in Roswell. I would encourage all of you to bicycle to work on that day and bicycle somewhere during that week and enjoy the beauty of the city of Roswell and the great complete streets and bike lanes and the city of Roswell. There is no better city in the state of Georgia to enjoy your bicycle. And that's why we've been recognized as the first and only bicycle-friendly community in the state. And again, I want to thank council for making that possible. And our Tau Beta Pi recipient, Steve Asenbrack, who is currently serving as president of Bike Roswell, for all that they did to make bicycling possible. And does Steve want to come make an announcement about Bike Roswell and bicycling in our city?
Thank you, Mayor, and I'd like to challenge you to ride your bike with me on May 17th on National Bike to Work Day. And any of the other council members that would like to join us, we'll ride down Woodstock Street and come in here to the City Hall because it's the right thing to do.
What time of day?
In the morning when some of us have to come to work in the morning here, so I'll be riding, and I can drive by Stroop Road and pick you up. And
put that on. We'll have to put. I may have to wear a change of clothes.
We have a shower
here. Why don't we do this? In addition to riding to work,
and
some of our council members are not quite as adventurous, but we certainly could ride to lunch. So
we will be riding to the Roswell Area Park for National Public Works Week lunch on that same day. So we have lots of things to do.
So let's invite everybody to ride from City Hall.
Yes, sir.
And is that to Roswell Area Park?
Isn't it, Stu, at Roswell Area Park we're doing the lunch? Yes, sir. We can do that.
And if we get enough people, we will get a motorcycle escort.
I'll be happy to escort you.
Councilman Orleans is going to escort him on his
motorcycle, probably.
With his green hair.
With his green hair. So everyone, if you do not have a bicycle, if you will contact Mr. Asenbrock, the city has some bicycles.
We do?
And I'm sure if there's even a bigger turnout, we can find some more bicycles elsewhere. So please make your reservation to ride with us. And what time are we leaving City Hall that day?
We'll leave at 11:30 to ride to the park for lunch.
11:30. If you would send out an email.
Yes, sir. I'll do that.
And
be happy
if
to.
you would invite all of our staff.
Absolutely. Be happy to.
We will have.
We'll find bikes. If you come, we'll
we could make this a tradition here and have a
I'll meet you
ride
in the
to the
park.
I'll meet you in the
park.
You can ride on the. You can ride it on the Sissy on Orleans motorcycle.
Oh, I'll ride with Councilmember Orleans, so I'm not coordinated enough to ride a bike.
But there'll be room for you on the motorcycle, I'm sure. And he's a safe motorcyclist. I've seen him in action. He's survived to this age without an accident, with all of his limbs intact. So, Mr. Asenbrock, thank you for bringing that to our attention. I will. If you will email me, I will ride my bicycle to work and give my wife a change of clothes, and I'll ride to. We'll lead the ride to Roswell Area Park. That'll be a great ride. Thank you. And Councilmember Eichelhart is excused tonight with an absence. With an excuse. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Motion to approve the consent agenda by Councilmember Becky Wynn. Do we have a second? Second by Councilmember Orleans. Anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously. We will not be having a work session on the budget tonight. We'll be continuing that to the 10th. That's the date I'll be presenting my proposed budget, and we'll have should have a workbook ready for you before then. Kay, will any information be available on the web?
Yes, sir. Once we get the document ready for Monday night, it will be posted on Monday once you presented it to the public.
All right, and the last thing on my appointment is a design review board nomination. I'm nominating Sonia Tablata to serve on the design review board.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Councilmember Wynn. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Diamond. Does anyone in the audience have any questions? Any comments by council? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously. This time, I will call upon Transportation Department, Councilmember Rich DiPolito.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The first item on the agenda was already taken care of by Mr. Evans, who so eloquently spoke about Mr. Asenbrock and his accomplishments, and I once again just wanted to thank Mr. Asenbrock for all he's done for the city, and congratulations on a marvelous career.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is approval to initiate the right-of-way acquisition process for 3 parcels for the Warsaw Waterline project in an amount not to exceed $124,000, and approval of budget amendment PBA 9610-05-03-10 in the amount of $124,000. Mr. Asenbrock.
Thank you, Councilmember DiPolito. Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, we have a waterline project that we are moving forward with that happens to go along Norcross and Warsaw, indicated here in this little line, and it has a few stubs that go up along Grimes Bridge and then down here towards Melody Lane. This waterline project is being funded with a community development block grant money, and we get this money from Fulton County. It has a limited shelf life to it, and we really need to get moving on it. And so in an effort to accelerate this and make sure that it meets all its timelines, we've secured the necessary right-of-way that we need for this intersection improvement, and we have the parcels 1, 3, and 5, which were required for this waterline acquired. And we ask that you will approve this motion so that we can turn it over to our friends in Public Works and they can begin their waterline construction.
Any questions for Mr. Asenbrock? Do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
Motion to approve by Councilmember DiPolito. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Wynn and Orleans. Any questions from the audience? Any further discussion by council? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes. Councilmember Price, are you voting? Can't passes unanimously.
Thank you.
This time I'll call upon Administration and Finance Liaison Councilmember Jerry Orleans.
Thank you. First item on the agenda tonight is approval of an ordinance to amend Chapter 3 of the Alcoholic Beverages Section 3.7.3 restaurants regarding seating capacity requirements for limited and full pouring alcoholic beverages license. This will be the first reading. If we can have the city attorney, the first reading.
Thank you. This is an ordinance to amend Chapter 3.7.3B, Alcoholic Beverages of the Code of Ordinance of the City of Roswell. Now, therefore, the Mayor and Council of the City of Roswell, pursuant to their authority, do hereby adopt the following ordinance. Chapter 3, Alcoholic Beverages of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Roswell is amended by deleting Chapter 3, Section 3.7.3B in its entirety and substituting a new Section 3.7.3B to read as follows, text of which is incorporated herein by reference, and if approved, this will be the first reading of the ordinance.
And as everybody remembers, we've discussed this in committee, and we started off having a problem with the old ordinance that required certain number of minimum seats for a full pouring license, and this is trying to address that issue. The older ordinance, because of the minimum seats, required a certain amount of space, and some of the thoughts were that the smaller, more quaint restaurants would be good for Roswell, and in Canton Street we've had several of them, and they're trying to get their full pouring license and didn't have the ability to get that. So with the staff involvement, we've come up with a process to take the total occupancy load as determined by the fire department, and then the requirement would be that 70% of those number of people would be, we'd have seating at tables for them, with the idea that this would be still keeping the restaurant tradition in Roswell without getting too heavy to the bar side of it and keeping the restaurant atmosphere. So that's the first reading, and that's how it's been presented, is 70% of the occupancy would be the number of table seating that they would have, and Michael Fisher's here to answer any questions.
Mr. Fisher, are there any existing restaurants that have a full pouring license that would be out of compliance if we pass the 70% rule?
I think I can answer that for Mr. Fisher. I don't think he has gotten the latest information. No, they are not. There are not any that would be out of compliance based on our look. I'll let the city attorney respond as well.
I think according to the revised one that we got today, pasties would actually be out of compliance. Red Salt.
Can't hear you, David.
The Salt Factory would be out of compliance. And I'm just looking in Street Cafe.
So what number would, if we had to lower the percentage so that we didn't place one of those restaurants out of capacity, what would that number be?
I don't see, I know on Salt Factory, they currently have 45, and the current ordinance would require them to have 49.
45, when you say 45, what?
They have 45 seatings currently at tables, and the new ordinance would dictate 49. Of course, they've been out of compliance so far, and so this would get them in compliance by adding one more table of 4 seats.
Last time I looked, they had as many seats as they could get in there.
60%.
If they were, if the ordinance read 60%, they would be in compliance.
Correct.
Now, how about the other? How about pastis and?
They'd be way over compliance then.
Pasty would.
I'm trying to figure out if
Pastis currently has 123 seats inside at tables, and none of the figures we have right now get down to that number.
Well, I know that would be a consideration of I know from Red Salt and Pastis, my impression on walking in there are not bars, that they're primarily restaurants, and I wouldn't be inclined to try to. If they're restaurants, I think that's a good example of a restaurant and what the ratio should be. Councilmember Price, did you have a comment to make?
Yeah, I'm concerned about this. Actually, there's a typo kind of in the ordinance that might need to be cleaned up before the next reading. Under B, you should insert at the beginning. I'll make a motion that insert to make it a real sentence. All restaurants must, prior to the have at least. That will make it consistent with item A. So I'll make that as a form of a motion.
I'm sorry.
Just if you look
Let's do this, Councilmember Price. Let's see first if we get a motion to pass, and then we can add a motion to amend to add that. Let's just get questions.
All right. My concern then is when I do the math, I find that with the exception of Rice, and I think these are mostly restaurants on Canton Street, with the exception of Rice, none of the others would be in compliance. Now I know that there was a reassessment of the occupancy load, and some of them are not posted, whereas they previously were. And I know that we're leaving it up to the discretion of the fire marshal to determine that. So I don't know why it was determined in the past and now it's not determined, so we don't know what the future determination of that would be. And there are a couple that already have more seats than the occupancy load, so they would be out of compliance as well. So I think we've got a problem here in possibly rendering, with the exception of one restaurant on Canton Street, every single one in non-compliance. So I think that that's a real problem. I don't even think putting it down to 60% would solve that, but I think we need to look at this very carefully before we put people out of business.
Good point. Other questions before we entertain a motion? Yes, Councilmember Diamond.
I get a bell. It looks like at 60%, we still Pastis, Street Cafe, and Indigo are all fairly. I mean, Street Cafe is closer, but the other two are fairly far out. And I think, Mr. Davidson, maybe you can address how the idea that these very larger places might have some alternative than to fill every space with a table. We talked about because they do special events. Can you clarify that?
Some of the larger restaurants have like banquet rooms or other areas that aren't filled with tables all the time, but that area does count towards their occupancy load, as does the kitchen, as does the bathroom, as does the bar area. So you're using an occupancy load that takes into account areas where people couldn't even go, a normal patron, to sit down. So some of the areas, some of the restaurants, maybe Pastis, that have a banquet room could put tables in the banquet room to meet that seating capacity. They just would probably never use it. I don't know about the Street Cafe, but I know somebody's here that could probably address that. And some of the other restaurants.
Well, I don't know what the pleasure of the council is going to be to vote tonight, but before we take a final vote, I think we need to take a hard look at this. I hate passing a law that just says I want you to put some chairs and tables in a room and that nobody ever uses, and that somehow gets around the law. I think we should be a little more realistic about this law and look at the intent rather than suggest we're going to pass a law and suggest that you somehow try to find a loophole to get around it so you comply with it. That seems to be a little foolish. Councilmember Diamond.
I also spoke with our fire marshal this afternoon, and I asked him about some of these places, like you mentioned, Salt Factory. If you add seating in there, you're going to run into fire code problems because it is pretty much sandwiched as many tables as you can get in that space with the kitchen and the way that it's all laid out. Even if you move some of the other furniture in there, it's going to create an issue. So I guess My suggestion would be to amend it, I would say for 60, to get it closer to everybody else. And can we do some way to make the other spaces event facilities? Is that a way around it, or
that was a motion?
to not penalize the places that are larger? Sorry.
Say that again, Nancy. Didn't hear you.
I mean, like Pastis that uses that area for a banquet room, can that be considered a special events facility? Because they generally don't use that in the normal course of evening seating, do they?
I think it would be difficult. I don't think the fire marshal is here. I don't know how he would do the occupancy load.
Okay.
That would be something that we would need to address with him.
Other questions before I entertain a motion? Do we have a motion?
You're supposed to make a motion.
Yeah. Councilmember Orlins.
We've talked about this a couple times in committee, and we've had several staff meetings on it. And if there's still questions on it and trying to come to a method of measuring this, then I would suggest we just defer it and go back to take a look at it, or have staff go through it a little bit better then.
Is that a motion to defer?
And, come back with a better compiling of how this is going to work and examples of how it's going to work, and look at the idea of whether the special events facilities can be carved out or not carved out.
Is that a motion to defer?
I move to defer.
Motion to defer by Councilman Orlins. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember DiPolito. If this motion passes, do we have any time limits to worry about?
No,
that's just zoning.
Okay.
So we don't have a time.
We can bring it back when we're ready. Right. Are you making a motion to defer to a date certain, or just a motion to defer until you're ready to bring it back?
Until we're ready to bring it back, till staff can look at all these issues on it, and council can feed them any of the other issues that they've come up with.
We have a motion and a second to defer. Councilmember Price.
I know there are some restaurants getting ready to open that, this has been an issue for them, that they would be able to open, and I don't think we should be continually, and I know it's been deferred a number of times in committee, to put the burden on them to wait for us to make a decision. We've had plenty of time to work this through, and I would either like to vote on it tonight, or bring this back at a date certain that we can resolve this and allow these businesses to get moving.
Mr. Councilmember Orlins, you comfortable with bringing it back at a date certain?
We could postpone it for 1 month and see what staff can do. I'm just trying to give time for the council and staff to come together with all the ideas. We can come up with it in 2 weeks. We can come back in 2 weeks.
Sometimes I find if you put a date on things, they come back quicker than if you leave it indefinite.
Well, let's say the latest a month, next month.
To be deferred not more than 30 until the
right.
First meeting in June.
Correct.
Councilmember Price, does that meet your objection?
I think we could do it sooner than that. We've got a meeting next week, and the week following.
Councilmember Nguyen.
Thank you, Mayor. This is the first reading. Can't we just do what we usually do and have a motion a second, do the first reading, and then come back with the second reading? My concern, if we defer it, then we're deferring this first reading, because we'll have to have a first reading and a second reading. So my suggestion would be go ahead and make some type of motion, move this forward, let staff work on it, and, when it comes back for the second reading. That way we're not deferring it again and again and again. So that's my suggestion.
That's a suggestion?
No, sir, that's an amendment to the...
No, we're not buying that amendment. This is either going to pass or fail, or they withdraw it, but we're not going to play that game.
It's not a game, sir. All I'm saying is if we defer it, you're going to have 2 readings.
The council will vote either to defer it or not to defer it. If the vote is not to defer it, then we will entertain a motion to go ahead and pass it for the first reading. We have
the only reason that I went with deferral was because it seemed like there was a lot of questions about it and a lot of comments and a lot of things that didn't feel it was going to work. So that's why I didn't want to go. Usually it's got something that's going forward, and there's a few comments for staff to tweak.
You wish to reconsider your motion to a motion to pass the first reading?
Yeah, I move to pass the first reading and look at all these issues before the second reading. Sure.
We have a motion. Mr. Dippolito, are you fine with that amendment?
Yes.
We now have a motion to pass with reservations to be looked at before the next meeting. Councilmember Price.
I'd like to offer an amendment. I move that we insert the words "all restaurants must" at the very beginning of B, so it's consistent with A.
Your comments, Mr. Davidson?
I've already got that written in. I had done that before the council meeting to make that change before the second reading.
So we'll accept that motion as well-founded.
Good pickup.
We have a motion. Do we have a second on the amendment? This is to amend it to change the language as Ms. Price suggested.
I'll second that.
Motion and a second. Further discussion regarding the amendment. All in favor of the amendment, raise their hands. Passes unanimously. Further comments before we vote on the first reading. Councilmember Price.
I'd like to make an amendment that in the next reading, the percentage be 60.
Yeah.
Well, you can vote. You can ask to amend it to read 60 the first reading, if you wish.
I'd like to motion to amend it to 60.
We have a motion to amend it to 60. That can be up or down at the second reading, but now we've got a motion to change it to 60% on the first reading. Do we have a second? Is that a second? Second by Mrs. Diamond. Further discussion by council. This is 60%. Councilman Orleans.
And that was why I was going with deferral to begin with, to work these things out instead of trying to amend it one point after another on the fly here. So going back to what the council wanted to move this along, went with approving the first reading, and all of these things can be worked on by staff and council input between the first and second reading, which is normal process for these with the two readings. So, I'm suggesting you just give your ideas to the staff and let them look at them and put them into the total system instead of trying to pick it away.
We have a motion and a second to amend the first reading to 60% and rather than 70%. Further discussion. All in favor of the motion to amend, raise their hands. Councilmember Diamond, Councilmember Price. Motion fails. All those in favor of the motion to approve the first reading, that's at 70%, with the understanding you can amend it later. Mr. Dippolito wishes to comment before we move forward.
I apologize for delaying a little further. I just wanted to make a comment for the staff. I think one of the things that's a little bit confusing here is that we're basing this on a percentage of occupancy load. And if you look at all of these restaurants, if you look at their bar seats, they're less than 30% of the occupancy load, which was kind of our original intent. Where we get tripped up is we don't necessarily have the right number of tables. And I guess that goes to what Mr. Davidson was trying to explain to us, that you may have the space, you just can't fit a table in there. So it gets a little bit tricky. So I think the goal is for this not to be, we don't want a lot of bars popping up, so maybe there's a way to kind of look at that formula in a way that we're calculating bar area versus tables. And that's just a suggestion, because it seems to be how we're getting tripped up here.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the first reading with 70% to come back within 30 days. Any further discussion of that motion? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Councilmember Orleans, Nguyen, and Dippolito. All opposed?
No, I'm a for.
That's Councilmember Price is for it. All opposed? Mrs. Diamond, what is your vote? I don't care, doesn't count. You either vote for or against.
She's for.
She's for it. That passes unanimously. And yes, Councilmember Price.
Can we make it clear that that's a proviso, that it's not approving the details of the...
I think you made that pretty clear.
Thank you.
Next item is approval of an ordinance to amend Chapter 13, Offenses and Miscellaneous Provisions of the City of Roswell Code of Ordinances. And again, this is the first reading, commonly referred to as the Open Container Ordinance. So if the City Attorney will read the ordinance.
Thank you. This is an ordinance to amend Chapter 13, Offenses and Miscellaneous Provisions of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Roswell regarding open containers. Now therefore the mayor and council of the city of Roswell, pursuant to their authority, do hereby adopt the following ordinance. Chapter 13, Offenses and Miscellaneous Provisions of the Code of Ordinances of the city of Roswell is amended by adding thereto a new subsection 13.1.4, Open Containers, to read as shown in Exhibit A, attached hereto and incorporated herein by reference. And if approved, this will be the first reading of this ordinance.
Mr. Davidson, would you summarize how that ordinance would change our current laws?
Basically, this would make it illegal to carry an open container on any street, any sidewalk, any right-of-way, or public or semi-public parking area within the city of Roswell.
So I understand what a public parking area, public right-of-way, that's property owned by the city of Roswell. What is a semi-public parking area?
According to the definition we have in here, it is includes any privately owned area wherein motor vehicles may be parked by the public in conjunction with any business, enterprise, commercial establishment, office building, church, school, or multiple family residential building. So basically it would be the parking lot at Home Depot.
But it would not include a private residence parking area?
No, not a driveway.
Does the council have any questions? Do we have a motion?
Questions are down here, sir.
Yes, sir. Questions? Councilman Orleans.
I would like to have, before the second reading, a memo from legal or staff on how permits would be handled and if they'd have to be a closed area for someone to have a special event that would allow the containers. So I'd like to know how that would work. I know we've had some discussions about it and talking about, that can be done by a special permit and so forth, but I'd like to know how that's going to work and how it's going to operate.
So this would be for a parking lot of a shopping center?
Parking lot of a shopping center, a cul-de-sac in a residential neighborhood, or Live After 5, how that's going to be handled as far as boundaries and who applies. And since we've got 1 million residents that are involved in that, I would like to have that in writing on how that's going to work before we get to the second reading.
Good point. Councilmember Price.
Something I noticed in the newspaper today, an event for Cinco de Mayo that's in a parking lot somewhere with alcoholic beverages. Would this not allow that to happen?
It won't be passed in time.
Well, I know, but in general.
Yes.
That's a special event. They already have a special event permit.
So they would be allowed to have alcohol on a public, semi-public parking area.
That's a semi-public parking area that has a special events permit from the city.
Okay.
Other questions? Do we have a motion?
Again, move for the approval of the first reading.
Motion by Councilman Orleans to approve the first reading of the ordinance. Do we have a second? Second by Councilmember Diamond. Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? Any further discussion by council? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes. Councilmember Price. I have Orleans, Wynn, Dippolito, and Diamond in favor. All opposed? Councilmember Price abstains. Passes 4 by a vote of 4 with 1 abstention. That's all for Councilmember Orleans' agenda. Now we're to Councilmember Price's agenda, liaison to the Community Development Department.
First item is SC 10-01, Sidewalk Cafe license, Rue on Canton, 946 Canton Street. Brad Townsend presenting.
Yes, thank you. This is a proposed sidewalk cafe license for 946 Canton Street. This is located on Canton, right next to the proposed Inc. restaurant. As you can see, the white building is the new restaurant for Inc. The coming soon sign shows the Rue location. This is a photograph of a couple, I believe maybe a year ago or two, before the flat stone was enclosed in these areas for this location. What's being proposed for this location are 6 tables. The barriers are being placed on the south side and the north side, as well as a table placed on top of the flat stone area for this location. This maintains the handicapped area coming down the ramp from the north into the restaurant. There are 4 recommended conditions by staff for this location to be utilized for a sidewalk cafe. One thing I want to mention is we're starting to require that the sidewalk cafes provide 2 chains to meet ADA requirements. For a person who uses a cane walking on the sidewalk, we're requiring them to provide a lower chain that cannot be above 27 inches for these sidewalk cafe licenses. Staff would recommend approval of this location for the sidewalk cafe.
Would you go back to your schematic? Now, are there going to be seating people on top of these flagstone on that at a higher level?
Yes, there's 2 tables proposed on top of the flagstone.
I'm just wondering, what's the elevation drop between that and that lower section? That's a little. I mean, how do you get there if you have to? If there's a chain on the sidewalk side and you got to. Does that work? Is that I'm not sure if they've had a beverage, if that's safe or not. I mean, have y'all opined on that?
It has been utilized like this in the past. The prior occupant of this location was actually proposing to remove this area, as well as the last approval for Inc. approved a 2-phase approval which showed the removal of the flagstone area in front of their restaurant.
I'm just wondering if y'all reviewed it and you feel this presents any issues with regarding.
No.
You think it's fine?
I think it's fine.
Okay, just checking. I know sometimes after I have a couple of beers, I forget where that step is. But if nobody's fallen off of it yet, I guess it's proven to be safe.
Okay.
Councilmember DiPolito.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A note to the owners, don't let the mayor sit at those tables. Mr. Townsend, I question whether that step would actually meet code or not. Can you actually have an 18-inch step for the building code? I mean, I don't have a problem with the layout. I just want to make sure we meet code.
Right. I'll check on that.
Councilman Orleans.
Brad.
Yes.
All right, first off, going back to Inc., they're removing the flagstone.
Yes. Their Phase 2 approval showed the removal of the flagstone.
And what about the grass area, the open area that's around the street light? And then my next question, just you consider all this, is that for this one now, they're going to be putting a table on what is a combination of flagstone and grass?
The grass has been removed. It's been all replaced by flagstone already.
Oh, it has?
Yes.
So the whole thing has been replaced?
The Inc. approval was going to remove this area of the existing flagstone and lower it to the same level as this location where they were going to put tables.
Right. And that made sense. Now this one is leaving it up?
They're leaving it up.
Taking it down. Kind of with the mayor, I'm just wondering what's going to happen with that extra step there. But
Mr. Davidson, you had a comment you wanted to make or suggest to the council?
I think it just needs to be made clear by the council that the only thing you would be approving is the license for them to be on the sidewalk, not any of the permits or anything. So they would still have to meet the code, and the building official would either allow them to put something up there or not allow them to put something up there. This approval does not give them that permission to put something up there if it doesn't meet the code.
Other questions? Councilmember Price.
Mr. Townsend, has the applicant agreed to the 3 conditions, recommendations?
My understanding is yes.
Do we have a motion? Councilmember Price.
I move that we approve SC 10-01 with the staff recommendations for the Rue on Canton, 946 Canton Street, sidewalk cafe license.
Does that include the clarification by Mr. Davidson that this is not exempt them from building code and that this is not approval of any specific arrangement of tables?
If that's necessary, I'll include that.
It's appropriate.
It's appropriate. Please add that to the motion.
That is our motion. Do we have a second? Second by Councilmember Diamond. Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? Any further discussion by council? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously. Councilmember Price, I believe you have another agenda item.
Yes, number 11, SC 1002, sidewalk cafe license, Street Kitchen, 982 Canton Street. Street Cafes Inc., Kelly Clark.
Yes,
Townsend.
This is a proposed sidewalk cafe license for 982 Canton Street, located at the end of Norcross. It's a building that's been constructed probably 2-3 years ago. They are proposing a sidewalk cafe. This is an existing look at the existing sidewalk. What we're trying to maintain is a 5-foot pathway to meet ADA requirements from the 2 light standards that are at either end of this location. This is the proposed application that was submitted by the applicant. This gives you some dimensional understanding of the existing brick sidewalk is approximately a foot back from the property line, so there is a green area of at least 1 foot at the back side of the sidewalk. The standard sidewalk area is approximately 8 feet 9 inches. There's a 4-foot grass strip just behind the curb to the Canton Street location. This is a graphic represented that staff put together that allows the applicant to put the street cafe location 1 foot onto the sidewalk by providing at least 2 feet of new brick pavers. This provides for the complete area to be enclosed by a barrier as required by the alcohol beverage requirements for this location. It also provides a minimum of a 5-foot pedestrian clear pathway by the 2 lampposts on the location. It also controls the location of the sidewalk cafe to not be where the main pedestrian crossings are at Canton Street along both north and south of Norcross Street. This is recommended. This is the proposed recommended by staff. This is the reason we're doing this for the sidewalk cafe. The applicant chose to take over the sidewalk on a couple of occasions with sidewalks between the lamppost as well as the location of the sign on the property. This is a rendering of the proposed tables and chairs. There are 4 recommended conditions for this proposal. In compliance, they would still, as the city attorney mentioned, meet all of the permitting requirements and land disturbance permit requirements for this location. I'll go back to the graphic showing staff's recommended proposed sidewalk cafe.
Does the council have any questions for staff? Councilmember DiPolito.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Townsend, was there a sketch provided by the applicant?
This was submitted by the applicant.
And what's the difference between this and what the staff recommendation is?
This is an older graphic, does not actually represent the sidewalk width and the locations. It doesn't have the 2 areas where the ADA compliant location. This graphic, I believe, represents the property line approximately 4 or 5 feet from the back of the sidewalk, where when you look at this graphic, it clearly shows that the current sidewalk is approximately 1 foot from the property line.
Okay. So
this is why staff created this graphic, to try to more accurately represent what would happen if approved for the license.
So has the applicant agreed to this recommendation?
I believe they have some concerns of why to put the sidewalk or add the extra brick on either end. Staff doesn't have a problem. As you can see, we're trying to keep it at least 15 feet from one property line and 10 feet from the other. I mean, those locations, the brick could be removed from those locations. I mean, there's no purpose for them at that point. I don't know if there are any other questions, but he's shaking his head. I'm sure there are a few questions.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions for staff? This time we'll hear from the applicant if he'll come forward.
Yeah.
If you could first address what conditions, if there are any conditions you do not agree with.
Primarily the...
so we can cut to the chase.
Sure. Adding the 2 foot of brick. This area has already been reviewed or under review now for an improvement from the existing sidewalk to the building. There's also a new survey coming which depicts the original pin was set a foot into the sidewalk on the north end. And then they did find a pin on that. That pin was removed sometime between the bike race and the time they came out. I don't know. It was there on Sunday when I showed it to you. So at any rate, that will be, the property line really doesn't make a difference other than the fact that it's simply a matter of expediency. It's going to take some months, several months to get this other approval, get this other sidewalk built. All we're asking for is, with your graces, to utilize what we're eligible for as the other folks on Canton Street have, with the widest sidewalk area down there, with the exception of the 2 lampposts. There are 11, 13 other spots along Canton Street with a similar clearance between the lampposts and the edge of the sidewalk of 3 feet. But if you would like, I've got a rendering that shows us veering around that as well.
Let me start with, staff is recommending long-term that you add an additional foot to the sidewalk.
2 feet.
2 feet to the sidewalk, and that you come back, not that you leave a minimum of 5 feet between your chain and the lamppost.
And the lamppost, right.
And you are asking that you be given permission on an interim basis to use the current sidewalk before you put in the additional 2 feet?
Well, we are going to put in additional...
I'm talking about on an interim basis right now.
Absolutely. I mean, we don't...
So what you would like, what you're suggesting, let me see if I understand this. What you're suggesting is, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that you would like the permission to use the city sidewalk now, and that you are agreeable to saying that would be for a limited time, which would give you time to add your additional 2 feet on, and then you would then move back to this plan. With the exception of the 2 feet on either side.
Right. I would think at that point. Right.
I think I understand the long-term plan, that you accept this except for adding 2 feet on either side beyond where your seating is. Right. But now let's make sure we understand what your interim request is, because I'm not sure that's been made clear to the council.
Interim request is that we either let it come to the ADA or the ordinance and ADA compliant 36 inches between the lampposts and our chain at those 2 particular junctures where those street lights are.
Draw me a picture, because...
There's a picture here.
Can I ask a question before we move on to the next point?
Yes, sir, please do.
I'm trying to understand what you're talking about 2 feet, because I see Brad crossing out to 10 feet and 15 feet on both ends. So I'm not following what
Well,
the 2
there's
feet
2
was.
feet that if you envision you're on Canton Street, this is the sidewalk.
It's already 9 feet wide.
It's already 8 feet 9 inches
8.9.
wide and an additional 4 feet plus a 6-inch curb. So we're way back from the street. There just happen to be 2 light posts in the midst of this, which is the 5 feet that understandably staff is trying to comply with y'all's request of keeping a 5-foot free walk. But if you're walking through your yard and there's a tree there, you walk one side or the other, you don't walk into it. That's a similar situation. There is a 3-foot ordinance compliant distance between what we proposed and our chain. But in this instance, staff has requested us put 2 feet of brick to our side of the existing sidewalk.
Right, bring your sidewalk
running
into
parallel with our property line.
Okay, and that's where this picture comes up.
That's where that picture is right there. So basically, to use a 1-foot strip, to use about 45 square feet of city sidewalk, we're putting in about 250 feet of brick to go along with that. When we were already going to put that in, and then the time involved, we still have to go through permitting and land use and everything else, on top of another one which was already being proposed to take that back anyway. We had, that was the original intent anyway. Unfortunately, through the sale of the building, this has delayed this entire project a couple of 3 months, which is, we didn't request it be sold, but it just had to happen. So then we fell to the city and said, we didn't intend to get a sidewalk permit because we felt like we had enough there. So this is, however, we are in the season and we are missing dollars every single day that we cannot see people on the sidewalk. So we're asking the city to either...
As I understand, you're asking for, in essence, an interim permit, which I'm asking, which I want to... Long-term permit, you're saying, I'm fine with all the conditions that the city's imposed on the long-term permit, other than I'd like the opportunity to only widen that part of the sidewalk which I'm using and not widen that part of the sidewalk which I'm not using.
I'd rather not widen the sidewalk. I mean, right now, this is what...
I'm talking about long-term.
Long-term.
You're going to widen the sidewalk across the breadth of the property other
Right.
than 2 ends where you're not using it.
Right.
I understand that part.
Okay.
Does any of the rest of the council understand that part? All right, let's get to the part which hasn't been presented to us, which is the interim use. And if you could draw a picture for us, or you have a picture.
This is one possibility, which shows a cut-in at the light post to allow 5-foot clearance around the light post.
So you just want to, right now, be able to have enough room on the sidewalk as it is to put tables along there.
6 or 7 tables down.
This yellow area without adding the 2 feet, but
we're still adding the chain and adding the barrier, just not adding the brick, because that would require the land use permit and the other.
This is going to take you a while to get the brick in. You're asking if interim use
Absolutely.
so you get a chance to put the brick in.
You're going to put chains in for this, and then you're going to move them back to fit in what the permanent one will be.
Well, if that's the case, we can. That's why the sockets are. It's supposed to be put in flush, so we can remove those and put them back in, or we can. If you'd like us to come to you again at that time and apply for another usage, whatever y'all want to do.
We'd like to get it all done once.
Yeah. Sure. I mean, if this part here is suitable, then whatever we build to the back of it will be on the other end of it, and we would continue to renew our sidewalk permit. If that's not what you want to do and you just want to do it temporarily,
let's talk about what
off.
you need. Let's not.
My immediate needs are tables on the sidewalk,
and that would be within the yellow.
Within the yellow area.
Within the yellow area is where you're asking to, in essence, license our sidewalk for putting tables in that areas with a fence up.
Right.
And I understand that. Does the council understand what they're asking for on an interim basis?
So it's another 2-phase. It's another 2-phase. This will be the first phase, and the second phase will be that other drawing that was up for long term.
Well, second phase would be all on our property, yes. At that point, everything from there on out would be on
And you would cease using this yellow area?
We could, if you don't want us to use it.
The council's got to decide that, but
no,
I mean, the way staff presented it, you would be cease using this yellow area. If you're saying, I'd like to continue using the yellow area, you need to make that clear. I'm just trying to have a clear request here. We're easily confused up here.
Well, if I had my choice, I'd prefer not to move them again.
All right. So your request is that you continue to use the yellow area plus what staff showed in the full-time. That's your request. Staff's recommending the long-term would be that other point. And
right.
So you're making staff has one recommendation. You're adding to that recommendation an interim use within this yellow area, and you're asking that staff's recommendation be modified to allow you to continue use the yellow area.
If I understand something correctly,
after you finish this,
if I understand correctly, we at the city, if you want to grant this temporarily, we could then come back to the city with a sidewalk request.
You can always come back, but
that's what I mean. In other words, so
we
could bring you another proposal later that you could agree to or not allow. If you think we've got too many seats out there, you can say no. You know,
I know what you would like. I know what staff is recommending. The last question I've got for you before I turn it over to council for questions is when we say an interim basis, we always like to have a deadline because we find that deadlines encourage people to complete things timely.
It's a 1-year license as it is. Is that correct? Isn't it granted year by year? We have to renew it each year.
What is your request for this interim use? What do you think is a reasonable time period to complete this project?
Given, I think 6 months will give enough time for. I can't control how fast Mr. Cohn works or how quickly the city can approve all these. They are all out of my control. So I would.
But you think you can complete it within 6 months?
I think I could. I think we can complete.
All right.
Does that seem?
Does council have any questions for the applicant as far as what he's asking for? Councilmember Price.
At the end of the interim period, potentially there could be 2 rows of tables. Is that correct?
Yes, there will be a row of tables on our property, and then the city property with a designated. By state law, we have to have an ability to serve these tables. We can't go outside the chains and serve from outside because we're leaving the premise then. So we have to have an alley to serve with. Either that can be all on our property, or we can serve to our side and serve to the sidewalk side. Either way, we'll set it up whatever you want to do. I don't, at this point. I didn't foresee it being a huge issue at that time. So we expected to be able to have, whatever we could do, we could apply for, and then be granted whatever y'all determined we could do. So
I got you.
Okay. I'm glad you do because I'm not sure what I just said.
Councilmember Wynn.
I'm glad you got him. Brad, Mr. Townsend.
Yes.
Okay, what's shown right now from it's Rick, correct?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
When you say right now, we're talking about
right.
Exhibit A.
What's up there right now?
Okay.
Okay. Why, if this is ADA compliant, am I correct? What's up there right now?
Because it does have the 3 feet.
Well, this is ADA.
Excuse me. Let me just.
Don't
confuse me.
All right,
Don't confuse
I'm sorry.
me.
This was just our original proposal, which was ADA
No.
compliant. Okay.
No, hold on. ADA compliance 3 feet.
Right.
City council has made a policy of 5 feet.
Correct.
Okay. What is the minimum? See, what's the 8? Is there any place in here that doesn't? Where in this area that I'm looking at right now does not meet the 5 feet? What, just where the 2 light posts are?
No, that is 5 feet.
No, hold on, please.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
The area he's showing here is, assuming they can get around this, is 5 feet. What I'm concerned with is what is that dimension in this location as well as this location.
What does that have to do? Oh.
The turning radius of being able to.
That was done with a compass to allow a circular arc of 5 feet and then the straight outside that.
Let me get from staff. Okay.
He didn't draw it though, so he doesn't.
No, I know,
right.
but I'm just trying to get from staff the reasoning why we're not going with what you're showing versus what they want. So that's my question. If the radius, if they can show a radius, a turning radius that is with
5 feet.
5 feet, and everything else is with 5 feet. If that can be shown, then is it necessary for them to add the other brick unless they just wanted to add it?
This may give you a clearer picture of what we're trying to deal with.
Okay.
They want to add the more brick, though. That's part of this.
Phase
no,
phase
hold on.
2 will get them more brick.
Yeah, but what I'm hearing, though, from Rick is that he wants to add the brick, but plus keep the interim, whatever tables he's going to put in his yellow, he wants to keep those, plus add more, so he really wants 2 rows of outside seating. That's what I'm hearing. Am I correct on that?
In my dream of dreams, of course, I'd like as many seats on the street
What I'm
as
trying to
possible.
find out is what are we asking for an interim, and what's going to be the completed project afterwards? Is it the interim is the yellow that Rick showed, and then the phase 2 would be to add the 2 feet of brick and then still have just 1 row of tables, or is it adding the yellow that he has plus the brick for 2 rows of tables? That's what I'm trying to find out.
His price, as I understand it, he's asking for the plan you're looking at plus the yellow. Ms. Wynn.
That's what I'm trying to determine.
That's not what I understand.
If you could, it's a combination of A and the scene you first showed, which would be everything on what staff reviewed plus this yellow, because that yellow is outside that line. And this would leave a 5-foot radius next to that pole, which makes it ADA compliant under the council's current policy.
The real difference between the 2 plans, what Mr. Clark has proposed pushes 2 feet onto the existing sidewalk. Staff has tried to push him 2 feet into his property.
Okay, then let me ask another question. If they do phase 2, which is the brick, and keeps the yellow, what he's showing now, is there a way to modify around these light posts to give it the turning radius necessary to be ADA compliant? Well, I don't know. This was not drawn. Did you see this plan before?
No.
Okay, see, that's how come I'm asking this
If we passed a law that said he could use the sidewalk as long as he left 5 feet clearance, including a 5-foot radius around the pole, that would be compliant with our policy, wouldn't it?
Yes.
Okay, that's the bottom line. So then if he wants to use 2 rows or 1 row or add the brick or not add the brick, that was, as long as he's ADA compliant plus with our 5 feet, that this is the policy of this mayor and council.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions, if we haven't confused you enough? Councilman Orleans.
From a legal standpoint of the liquor license, if they have this indentation coming around these poles, how do we have a continuous chain outside for the serving area?
Round chain.
Every location in which the area would change, we would be putting a post.
I guess I was just thinking it had to be contiguous.
It has to be contiguous across the property, and it has to extend back into the property and connect to the building.
Okay. So
to
they
be the
can
barrier.
Still walk out and be on the outside and serving outside of the chains.
They would probably walk down the steps and into this area to serve from that location. The servers are going to walk on the grass.
Okay.
I'm
just trying to make sure
layout.
from a legal standpoint we don't end up into a bind down the road if just the state law and how that's set up. That's all.
Well, we're beyond state law because state law is 3 feet and we've got 5 feet.
No, he's talking about the alcohol barrier requirement.
The alcohol barrier will be there.
Alcohol barrier, and
it'll be there.
It's continuous where it's not if it has to come in by the...
We're not waiving any state laws here. Councilmember Price.
I just want to clarify the requirement to be serving is it required to be serving inside the barrier completely? And is that going to be able to be done?
They are required to be inside the premises, which is inside the barrier.
Servers?
Yes.
Everybody? Okay.
Councilmember DiPolito.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I had a question for the applicant. This Exhibit A we're looking at now is what you want to do on the short-term basis, and you have plans for another plan, but I didn't hear you introduce the concept of interim and long-term plan. I understand the mayor did. I just want to make sure that you're okay with that, or do you want to just go ahead and get this plan approved at such time as you decide you want to do something different? If and when that happens, then you'd come back and get another plan approved.
That would be my preference, yes. That we would prefer this be our sidewalk license. Right. As long as council approves of this, then our other improvements are to be dealt with staff and planning after that point. Okay. So we would prefer this be our sidewalk license.
A.
Okay, thank you.
And there, if I could address, there would be a continuous change, Councilman Orland's chain. It will run continuously, and simply to the first point would, like a bank road, that would veer in, here, and out to allow for. So it would continuously go through these areas, right up to the point where we do have to have an ingress and egress point for them, which would be right here and right here. But this would follow all the way up to there. So
I was just trying to figure out how you go. If you go out your steps and you turn left on the yellow spot and you go over and you get to where it dips in.
Well, the yellow spot is actually where the seating is. The server and everyone, that's where the tables would be located. They would be served. If this was one of those tables, just as this, at this veer in here, there would not be a table at this veer in, but there would be a table here.
So all the serving's going to be from the lawn.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we can't go outside and serve. It does happen, but we are not allowed to go outside the chain and serve back into the area because that's removing from the premise. So
that's what I was trying to understand there.
Everything would be served from our side of the block. Yes.
Okay, that makes sense.
No, because it's private property.
No, they can't go outside the chain. Councilmember Wynn.
And I do have one more clarification. Mr. Townsend, on your map, on your plan, the two outer, where you have it marked off, you had no tables.
Correct.
On Mr. Clark's plan, I'm assuming since it's yellow, he would like to put tables there. So could you tell me the reason why, the difference in that? Would tables be allowed in all of this yellow on Mr. Clark's versus your plan showed no tables at all?
Yes. The reasoning that Mr. Clark is using the area in yellow, it allows him to extend down to his property line to the south, which this is the main gathering area for walking across Canton Street. It does pull back the 10 feet from the Rene Court location, so the tables are in there. He is adding this portion. Staff's recommendation was to stop at this location, which was a 15-foot dimension. So that probably provides him another 3 or 4 tables in that area.
And you're doing that because that is where everyone, the pedestrians gather to cross, because that's supposedly the legal place to cross Canton Street.
Correct.
Supposedly. Okay. Do you have a problem with that, Mr. Clark, not having tables there?
Well, it compensates for the jut in, but other than that is an improved area here. This is lawn, this is landscape, this is actually improved. We don't want to create a hindrance to traffic. That's why we pulled back here and didn't go all the way to this end. We took it here to allow for this because there's a crosswalk coming here and one coming here. I think there's honestly a ton of room between here and the actual crosswalk. But if if you decide, if we pick up the table we lose here and the table we lose here, we get those two back. So that was the reason I put that in there.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Other questions? Councilmember Price.
The landscaped area, it's been my observation, it's not particularly well landscaped. So is there any desire or prohibition against breaking that in to match the sidewalk? Or is it even necessary? It doesn't really matter.
We don't need to do that. If we did that, then we're not trying to take our sidewalk seating all the way to here by bricking this in, like filling in the parking space option. We're not trying to change the whole outlook of the area, but we would like to, if y'all don't mind, put something nicer in that landscape strip. Some actual landscaping, if that's
That's pretty.
But I mean, that's something that we did at the other location.
Don't complicate this thing.
Try to,
we have a request Do we have any questions regarding that request? Do we have a motion?
Okay, I move that we approve SC10-2 Sidewalk Cafe License, Street Kitchen, 982 Canton Street, Street Cafes, Inc., Kelly Clark, to match the drawing labeled A.
Pull that drawing up, please.
And are we using the term interim or not? We don't need that term.
No, he's asking for just
permission
to license this part of the sidewalk.
That sidewalk as depicted in Exhibit A,
That's
along with the staff recommendations, 4 staff recommendations.
Pull that up, please. I think it's contradictory if you include all those. Because now we've got a different site plan.
We would just change condition number 1 to be labeled Exhibit A. That would be fine.
And I believe the other 3...
And I'll take this with me.
The other 3 are acceptable. So, approve the Sidewalk Cafe license with staff recommendations with the exception of number 1, which will be replaced by Exhibit A.
We have a motion by Councilmember Price. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Wynn and Orleans. Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? Further discussion? All in favor of the motion? Passes unanimously. I would encourage y'all to add the additional 2 feet because walking on the grass isn't a good long-term plan, especially when it rains and it's muddy. So I understand you've gotten your license, but I encourage you to proceed with that because I don't think grass is going to hold up.
We'll move forward as fast as we can possibly permit everything we can there. It's to our benefit to move faster. We appreciate your grace in this. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thank you. Thanks.
This time I'll call upon Environmental Public Works Department. Councilmember Becky Wynn.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Approval for the mayor and/or city administrator to sign a contract with T.J. Lyle and Company Incorporated in the amount of $373,502.53 for the construction of the water lines along Warsaw Road and Elaine Drive and approval of a budget amendment 440C-05-03-10 in the amount of $96,000. Mr. Maureen.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. This is the water line on Warsaw Road, the 12-inch replacement line. Earlier this evening, you had approved the acquisition of easements to facilitate this project. This is in the CDBG service area, so the available CDBG funds will be applied to that project. It was bid together with the water line along Elaine Drive, which is an old asbestos cement line. We are proposing a single project in which to complete both of those. Available funding for Elaine Drive was more than needed. We're proposing the budget amendment of $96,000 to transfer to the Warsaw Road project so that they can all be completed. We had to bypass the committee meeting for this approval because this is part of the CDBG funding from Fulton County that we're under a tight time frame to get this spent by June. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Do we have a motion? Question by Councilmember DiPolito.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mooring, the 8-inch water line going down Lane Drive, that is just strictly a residential area, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. The 12-inch water line, have you thought about the potential redevelopment of that area and the implications that may have? Is a 12-inch line sufficient? It sounds big, but...
12-inch, yes, sir. 12-inch would accommodate redevelopment activity in that general area. And the line that is proposed along Sway Branch connecting into Marketplace, that will create a loop between Warsaw and Grimes Bridge and greatly improve available water. But yes, this line would accommodate any expectations of activity in that area.
Great, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Do we have a motion?
Yes, sir. And again, this is going to help improve the pressure in the fire flows and the
Absolutely.
fire hydrants and that type of thing.
In the target area.
Exactly. Motion to approve.
Motion for approval by Councilmember Wynn. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember DiPolito. Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously. We have a request for closure to discuss items of personnel. Do we have a motion for closure? And real estate. Motion by Councilmember Wynn for closure. Do we have a second? Second by Councilmember Diamond. All in favor, raise their hands. Passes unanimously. We're adjourned.
Mr. Mayor, the Green Hair Challenge winner has come in. He was not here earlier.